Hey everybody, Saint Mike here. I wanted to talk a little bit about something that's been bugging me, and that's cases with the police involving canines. And I'm talking about when somebody assaults or kills a police dog, they're often given the same amount of time as if they had killed a police officer, a human police officer. And I gotta say, I think that's a huge injustice for a number of reasons. One, I think it's a slap in the face to the human officer, because I think human life is more valuable than animal life, and you can disagree, and I'm kind of curious how you feel on that. Personally, I'd rather be around animals a heck of a lot more than humans. I think animals are a lot more sincere and they're a lot more loyal. But that being said, I do not hold animal life to a greater value than humans, keeping that in perspective. Also, I do believe that it's law enforcement who actually dictate the fact that animal life is far less important, you know? Tactically speaking, when do they use a police dog? Almost normally when it's not safe for the human. So what do? They send in the pawn, they send in the shock troop. Maybe it's a narrow corner or a hole in the ground or something where a suspect might be hiding, and a firearm may not give you that much of a tactical advantage over, say, a knife, suspect with a knife. What do? They send the police dog. That tells you the worth of this animal. You're not willing to risk the human life first, so you send in the dog. Whereas if you had actually felt that dog was an equal, then you'd be shoulder to shoulder, or should I say walking in together with that animal, and that's not the case. I think that prosecutors love these cases with canines because they're always going to be high profile. People love their animals. I love my animals, but I do not hold animal life above that of humans. And I think they are used as attack dogs more than anything. In fact, rarely do they have any other purpose. They might be trained to search for somebody, but that's rare. When they're out in the field, what are they used for? Either attack dogs or tools of intimidation. We see that right here in American history. What do we do with attack dogs? We sick them on black people that want to protest, and outside of that, the dog doesn't necessarily understand the political situation. It's just going to do what it's trained to do, and it's going to do a damn fine job at that. I'm not blaming the dog. The dog is just going to do what it's trained to do, and unfortunately they're trained to do one thing, and that's attack. Now here's the problem I have with that. Naturally, you would have to be a remarkable individual indeed to comply with a police dog when it's attacking you. Most people have a primordial fear of animals. Since the dawn of time, all of our ancestors had to compete with large, dangerous animals and predators that had fur and claws and fangs. It is a natural response to be afraid of animals, especially ones that can be perceived as dangerous. And I'm sorry, that canine, that German Shepherd, is way too close to a wolf for you not to be afraid. For someone to lay down on the ground and comply with police orders with a dog latched onto them, you have to be remarkable indeed, and you have to show a tremendous amount of self-control, a hell of a lot more control than most police officers show when they're in the line of duty. Their methods of how they employ these dogs, more often than not, it's something that they like to use to abuse the population. Historically, in the United States, you go back to the 1950s, what were the police dogs used for on protesters? It's nothing nice. They're a form of crowd control and intimidation. They're attack dogs first. I think personally that there should be some sort of consistency in how you regard the animal. So if you're going to say that it's an equal, then treat that animal as an equal. If you value that animal's life, then don't put that animal in that situation where you know that man has a knife. You wouldn't send your partner in there barehanded to start punching and swinging at a guy that's got a knife. So why are you sending that dog in there to do the same? Then you turn around and flip the script and you charge them the same amount of time for attacking a police officer. And a lot of people will instinctively kick or swing at a dog out of self-defense. Again, it's a natural fear. It's not like being handled by a human. And most people don't have that self-control. I have a problem with how these cases are being presented in court, the laws behind them. Prosecutors love these cases. They're high-profile cases. They're emotionally driven, almost never logically driven. People love their animals. People will come out in full force. You want to see the people get pissed off, shoot a dog. You want to see people get pissed off at the police? Then watch the policeman shoot the dog and watch how the public responds to that dog getting hurt. Watch what happens when a criminal shoots a dog, how angry the public gets. It's so emotionally that I think even if, say, you were a soldier getting killed in Afghanistan or something, you don't see the support that people would show for a police dog. And that's nuts. I think a lot of people are just downright crazy in how they regard animal life. Again, I like dogs a heck of a lot more than I like people, but keeping things in perspective, you cannot hold a human's life down here and a dog's life up here. It doesn't make any sense. I'm looking at one case that happened a while back. Kelantre Bearfield, 23-year-old black man, he got 34 years for shooting a police dog, and this guy was no angel. No angel at all. He actually got an additional 11 years for the number of crimes that he had committed. You're talking burglary, robbery, shooting it out with the police, 11 years. Killing the police dog, 34. You're talking about 2 life sentences just for the dog alone. And it is a very serious offense when you attack law enforcement. That's something that sticks with you, and I have done time before, and I have seen people that have assault on police officers, and I see how they're handled in jail, and I gotta say that's not something I ever want to go to jail for, because I've seen some things, and I'm not going to make any accusations against people who are handling inmates in jail, but I gotta say you don't want to have that on your record, because they're not going to treat you nicely. The problem I have with the court systems is how they're using these animals. Prosecutors like these cases because they're high profile. The case with Kelantre Bearfield, he killed a dog, Jethro, loyal, good German Shepherd, and the people, they had an outpouring. I'm talking, they raised like $30,000 to cover this dog's medical bills. There was a ginormous funeral procession. The city in Canton, Ohio declared a certain day a holiday for it, and I'm like, come on now. You don't even do this for your soldiers who die in Afghanistan. But we're talking about a dog. We're talking about a cute, fuzzy animal. So that in on itself flips the script. I think that all too often this is something that law enforcement can use as a tool to aggravate or just try to take advantage of a situation, because you know once that dog is off the leash, there will be an altercation. You cannot surrender peacefully to a police dog. You cannot do it. You're going to get bitten. You're going to get attacked. That dog is going to latch on you with very sharp teeth. It's not just holding you, it's holding you and it's shaking, as all dogs do when they bite. And I gotta say, it seems like it's terribly out of balance. I think there's a huge inconsistency, and it is an injustice. If you feel that this dog's life is equal to that of a human, then you need to own that. You need to basically treat the dog the same way. You don't send that dog in a dangerous situation you wouldn't send a police officer. You don't send them in that narrow corner where otherwise you wouldn't send a police officer. Sometimes the suspect may have a knife or something, and the gun doesn't give you much of an advantage because you have to go into narrow bushes or around a narrow corner or something like that. You don't send the police officer. It's risky. What do? You send the dog. Don't use the dog as shock troops when the fight gets risky. Don't use it as a pawn. with that said, I just curious how you guys feel. I think the people also need to kind of wake up to this issue because it's just being used as something to just kind of put people away. And if they can find a way to um, bury you for something, especially a prosecutor who likes these high profile cases, then they'll do that in a heartbeat. But I just say, I think that people need to look at the consistency of how people are being sentenced. Um, and again, I respect these fine animals. They're not the ones necessarily calling the shots at all. They're doing their jobs. They are courageous, a hell of a lot more courageous than their human counterparts most of the time. And most of them have way more sense than their human counterparts. But that being said, tell me how you feel. I'd like to know your thoughts on the police dogs, the sentencings for them, and do you think it should be the same?